Why did you transfer? I mean, you were at the University of Miami. What more do you want, Adan? Like,
Man, I do miss Miami. I'm not gonna lie. I miss Miami. I miss my friends there, and I miss the city. But
and I think part of it too, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Adan. Do you see yourself practicing law in Chicago? Most people, right, they transfer because they either want to practice in that particular area or jurisdiction, right, legalese. So to some of our listeners, right, when considering whether to transfer, you really gotta decide. And median is a 174, and to our listeners, a perfect LSAT score is what, Adon? All right, welcome to the Bar None podcast, sponsored by Law Bandit. This is the podcast that cuts through the casebook and the classroom chatter to bring you real talk about law school and the legal world, and pretty much beyond it. I'm your co-host Ted Del Sima, and as always, I'm joined by Adan Adorniez. And each week, we sit down with professors, partners, lawyers, law school insiders to break down what actually matters. And sometimes it's Adon and I, because Adon is currently in law school. So our podcast is no fluff, no filters, no BS. Whether you're a 1L, rising associate, or just law curious, this is the space where honesty meets the law. Because here, the bar is high, but there's none of that usual pretense. And this week's episode, it's called First Day Out. I think I've been doing this thing where I am naming episodes after favorite songs or rappers. Like there's a popular rap song called First Day Out, whatever. But this episode, it's going to be Adon and I, and we're really going to delve in because Adon, I mean, you just started school. You're 2L now. Like, talk to us a little bit about that process. You started school, what, yesterday?
yeah,
So talk to us.
yesterday. Yeah, no, yesterday was my first day. Ted, I think, man, you're getting the intro just every single week.
I'm,
It's
I'm,
like you practice or you sit down and you think about these things.
You know what it is? I'm adding a little bit, and I think I'm just having fun with it. That's all it is.
Yeah, but yesterday was my first day out as a transfer student at the University of
These are the
Chicago,
top three
and
things you can
I
do in
gotta
law
No
say,
school
dogs.
that will
I,
almost
I don't know.
I
guarantee
think it's
you
is
have
it
no personal
Phoenix,
life.
I
And
think, or the
Phoenix.
Maroons. I don't know.
Okay.
Phoenix or
What
Maroons.
is the plural of a phoenix? Phoeni?
Phoenix, I have no idea, man. I
All
think
right. Whatever. Keep going.
there's only one Phoenix, so there's no need for plural.
That's
Um,
fair. Repping hard.
yeah, no, I mean it was to be honest, like it just doesn't feel as stressful as 1L off the bat.
Hmm.
I hope the reading doesn't get much tougher than it is right now because it's a nice smooth ride. I had like a crisp 50 pages to read for my three classes yesterday, which was a lot different from 200 plus that I had to read last year. And yeah, I mean everything else, even though I'm at a new school, it was just a little more. I knew what to expect, so it wasn't as nerve wracking. So for all the 1Ls out there, like you will make it, and 2L will feel pleasantly different. But yeah, it's a pretty good day.
Well, congratulations to the start. I it's not often, but I have heard stories, and I have actual friends that have finished their entire 1L year of law school and decided, you know what, this abuse is no longer for me, and they're no longer in law school. So, congratulations on getting back on the horse and starting your 2L year. But I think to some of our listeners, our listeners range from, first year law students, current law students, graduates, and individuals that are interested in the law. And I think this episode and this topic is important because you're a transfer student. Like, why did you transfer? I mean, you were at the University of Miami. What more do you want, Adon? Like,
Yeah, I mean, man, I do miss Miami. I'm not gonna lie. I miss Miami. I miss my friends there, and I miss the city. But I mean, to me, it came down to like my family we immigrated here from Venezuela. Like we didn't have any connections here. My parents don't even know what Harvard, Yale, Stanford, U Chicago is. And for me, it was just a way to like being able to transfer to one of these, quote unquote top schools. I mean, it's just something that I saw I had the opportunity to do. It's something that my family didn't have the opportunity to do when they were younger. They were fully in another country, and I think as far as like for me, my career prospects and my kids' career prospects, you see a lot of, you ask a lot of these kids like, where did your parents go to school? And they're gonna say one of these schools too. So, I thought it was like the best decision for me at least, and my legacy moving forward was to come to these schools. I don't really think, I mean, based off my one day of class here, I'm not sure if there's like a huge difference. I know the professors here are more research driven and they do a lot of rigorous research on academic topics. But my professors at U Miami were good. But again, for me, it came down to just leave like my legacy and what I want people to see when they looked at my LinkedIn page.
No, I, and
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. And I will say, as a University of Miami graduate, University of Miami is an amazing school, top tier program, amazing alumnus, amazing endowment. I mean, they do a lot of great things. And I think part of it too, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Adan. Do you see yourself practicing law in Chicago?
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I do not. I do not. I mean, I fully came to U Chicago to meet cool people, meet really smart people, build a network, and be around these great minds that are the professors and the faculty at U Chicago. But I mean, my heart is in Miami, and it's just in Florida. That's where my family is. That's where
Hmm.
I plan to build a family. So yeah, I mean, I'm summering in Miami. So yeah, this is a definitely a temporary stay.
No, and I get it. So most people, right, they transfer because they either want to practice in that particular area or jurisdiction, right, legalese, or maybe there's a specific program, a specific field of study, professor, or just maybe notoriety that they're transferring for. So to some of our listeners, right, when considering whether to transfer, you really gotta decide what's important to you. And Adan, I want you to speak a little bit more to that. Like, how did you decide? Because on paper and statistically, University of Miami is a great
Yeah.
university. I mean, I graduated there. I've interned for judges that have graduated there. The partners of big law firms I've worked for are graduates of University of Miami. They're constantly increasing. They just built a new, dormitory. They're like the leaders in health and things like that. So what were some factors? And I just want to understand the balance, because some of our users, there might be like, well, I'm already at a good school. Like, what's the benefits of transferring? Like, what factors did you consider when you wanted to go from University of Miami to University of Chicago, with the understanding that you want to come back to Miami where you want to practice law?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, University of Miami, I think the ranking doesn't do it justice. I think it's a much better school than what the rankings show,
I agree.
and that's just I think it places better than all the other schools in Florida. Honestly, at least like for big law, it places better than UF. It places better than FSU. Don't quote me on that, but that's from what I've seen and the people that I've worked with and the people that I've seen get jobs at different places. Like that, like U Miami is the best for Florida. With that being said, it was like for me going through my 1L year looking for a summer job, like it was pretty difficult. A lot of the positions that I was looking at were filled by T14 students. So
Hmm.
I think on one end it was like I just wanted more opportunities. I mean I'm talking to my classmates here at U Chicago and I'm like, oh, where'd you do last summer? I think at U Miami, the answer I would get is, yeah, maybe I worked at the DA's office, or I was summering with a judge, or I'm at the bankruptcy court. Like here, it's like, okay, they may be summering with a federal judge, or they may be at a big law firm, or they may be doing some public interest work, and so I just see a much larger variety here. Um, so that was point one. Like I just wanted more doors open for me.
Hmm.
Um, and which is crazy because I had my summer for 2L set up before I even got accepted. Actually, the day that I got accepted was the day that I got an offer for this summer, which is at a big law firm. And so I mean, it's definitely can be done in Miami. A lot of my classmates are doing the things that they want. I just think a larger portion of the class has opportunities at schools like U Chicago. But yeah, I mean that was number one is opportunities. I think for me, number two was just like I'm kind of a nerd if you guys can't tell. But I wanted to be somewhere where people were interested in just more than law and more than just like getting a job. I think at Miami, like you go there to have a good time, you go there to learn the law, and but there's like some like it's like there's like a balance. I think my balance leans a little bit more like towards the reading books and studying and building apps side, and I just thought that U Chicago in particular was more. There's just more people like me here in that regard, and so I mean I think school is like one of the few times where you can really choose who you surround yourself with
Yeah.
and have like a free flow of ideas. I think once you get into the working world, like you're more focused on the work, and so you can't really like explore. So I just thought this would be a little bit better environment for me,
Mhm.
and also just like I mean, to be honest, before when I used to tell people, "Hey, yeah, I'm a law student at University of Miami," they wouldn't really say anything to me unless they're alumni or unless they have some tie to the school. I think now when I say, "Yeah, I'm a law student at the University of Chicago," they'll be like, "Oh yeah, wait, let me get your number. What's your LinkedIn? Like, let's connect." I think it kind of sucks, but that's how the world is. Like like prestige does matter, and where you go to school does matter at least like to get your foot in the door, and first
Mhm.
impressions are a big thing in the world. So that doesn't mean that somebody like a student at U Miami is better or worse than a student at U Chicago. But if I'm taking a look at two resumes and they're both the same, I'll probably go with the U Chicago just because it's just human nature. You're looking for a signal.
Yeah. No, and I get that. And for example, in that same token, if two students, you got U Chicago and you got Yale, they're gonna go with Yale. And so I get it. But you mentioned something that our listeners may not be quite familiar with. You said you wanted to go to a T14 school. What is that?
It's a like jargon for top 14 schools. So every year there's these like rankings that come out by I think it's like U.S. News, and yeah, so they call it. I don't know why they chose 14. I don't know why it's not 15 or 5 or 20. I have seen on Reddit like tiers. It's like T3, T5, T14.
So,
Uh,
so they've sub tiered the tier.
yeah. But
Wow.
the
Okay.
funny part is that they change every year. I
Hmm.
mean, it's usually the same schools. A couple come in, a couple leave, but it's usually the same schools every year. And
And to
I'm
give
not. Uh-huh.
and I don't mean to cut you off because this is interesting. Our listeners are learning these things and these terms. Like to give our listeners an understanding, what are some of the T14 schools? And these are schools that are the top law schools ranked in the universe, right? Right?
Yeah, in
In
the
the
U.S.
US
In the U.S.
universe, right? So like what are some of the schools that are always in the T14 ranking system?
Yeah, I mean, it's like the traditional schools that you think of, like all the Ivies, Harvard, Yale, um, Columbia, Penn. And you got like Stanford, U Chicago, and then you get some public schools that are very good and rank highly. Like you get UC Berkeley or Virginia. Um, Duke, I think Duke is private. I think Virginia might be private. I'm not sure, but just just like state schools that are not Ivies, but they're just very good schools as well. Georgetown is one that kind of comes in and out. But yeah, I mean, they're just schools that are known for academic rigor.
Hmm.
And the funny part is, again, talking to my classmates here, I'll ask them where they went to undergrad, and it's usually those same schools. So it's
Yeah.
definitely like a pipeline.
And there's a pedigree. So I get what you're saying, right? So you're at a great school and you're like, you know what? If I could put myself in a even better position where my network is wider, right? Like you said, your classmates are like, yeah, I try right after I went to Princeton, right after I went to Yale, right after I went to Harvard, I decided to go to law school. And what do they look for? The similar track, a T14 school, right? A school that's ranked continuously at the top, and that might be due to like successes, academic rigor, professors, endowments. That's a whole different podcast as to how the ranking system happens. So that makes
I will
sense.
say, I mean, there's a lot of successful people that didn't go to these top schools, but when I look at some of the most successful companies, like in the U.S. and on Earth, like the founders, the people working, the people that are at the top, the administrative teams, like a lot of them were into top schools. So I don't know if that's like a correlation there, but I mean, that's just the outcomes, That's just the
Yeah.
outcomes that you see. There are anomalies. I mean, I think I'm an anomaly. I'm probably the only student from North Carolina A&T that's ever gone to Chicago Law. Um,
But you made it, and that's a good transition. So to our
yeah.
listeners, how did like what was the sauce? What did you do at the University of Miami, your first year in law school, right? To set yourself up to be accepted into a top 14 law school in the United States? Like what was that sauce? Like I mean, this is where you brag a little bit. What was your GPA? What did you get involved in? Like how did you make it happen? Cuz I'm sure their transfer pool is small. How many students have transferred?
Yeah, no, we have I think 11,
11.
10 or
And
11. I think
and
10 actually.
and how many forms your class? How many students total for your class if you had to ballpark?
Like 150.
150.
Yeah, yeah, somewhere it's Chicago's small.
You're right? So
Yeah.
and they've taken 11. What's the
Yeah.
math on that, Adon?
I mean, it's probably like 9%, 8%, somewhere around there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see the chances are already slim. So explain to some of our listeners and viewers, because we got video now. What did you do? What was that sauce? How did you set yourself up to say, you know what? If I don't want to stay at my current school, I could scale up.
Yeah, I mean there are a few things. Like for me, I did not do well in undergrad. I think I had a 3.2 GPA, which is pretty low for law school, especially now with, after COVID, I think there's like some sort of like GPA inflation in undergrad. But I had a 3.2. I mean, I was an athlete, so I guess I had that going for me, but I was an athlete with a lower GPA than a regular candidate. I did not score particularly well on the LSAT. I think I got like a 163.
And that's
So,
going to be a separate podcast episode
yeah.
where we're going to talk about LSAT scores and
Yeah.
what that means and the stressors. But okay, so going back to what you're saying, undergrad, 3.2 GPA, your LSAT was in the
Yeah, 163. So
160s,
you look at Chicago, the people that get in, I mean, you're looking at like high three nines, like 398. And I think I saw like on Reddit somebody is like the median was like 397 or something.
397. And that's
Yeah.
out of what? A 4.0?
Yeah,
Is it still
no, yeah.
4.0
Yeah, it's
system?
4.0. Yeah, 4.0.
Okay.
And then the LSAT, I think it was like a 174 median. Median.
And
UChar-
median is a 174. And to our listeners, a perfect LSAT score is what, Adon?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I was so far from
Well, it's a 180. A
Okay,
180.
okay.
A 180 is a perfect LSAT score, and their median at this T14 school is one what?
Yeah, it's 174, I think. That's what I
174.
saw. That's what I
Okay.
saw on Reddit, which Reddit sometimes is more accurate than what you see
You know, more
online.
power to you going down the bowels of Reddit threads, but keep going. So
Yeah.
you had a 3.2, you're in the 160s.
Yeah,
So
so
that was just
when I
your
was
undergrad,
applying,
right?
yeah, when I was applying to law school, I mean, I just really wanted to learn real estate law and see how I could help
Mhm.
my family out. So I wasn't really looking to go to like a good school. I was like, all right, let me see like how I do on the LSAT. Let me see what the best school is that I can get into. And so I was applying to schools that like I was looking at like St. Thomas in Barry, which
Mhm.
are like in Nova Southeastern, which are like very like local, smaller law schools
Mhm.
in Florida. So I mean, I didn't even know what a T14 was at the time.
Yeah.
But I was in Miami, so I was like, okay, let me apply to Miami, let me apply to FIU, and I ended up getting into both. And Miami ended up giving me a little bit of scholarship, so
A little bit of cash, a little
with some
scratch.
cash, yeah. So I ended up choosing Miami. Just I mean, it was the best school that I got into with the most amount of money. Um, And again, I got in here. I was like, okay, like I'm probably like one of the dumbest people here because I haven't been in school. I never really paid attention in school. So
Mhm.
let me just try my best. Let me try to do what I did in baseball, which was just work hard and and see what happens. Again, no intention to transfer. Like I didn't even think it was possible.
Mhm.
I had heard about people transferring, but I was like, oh, like these are like the top of the class. Like I'm gonna be like median bottom. Anyways, so I use Law Bandit. Shameless plug.
Yeah,
I use Law
I was
Bandit.
waiting for it. I was like, Adon, is there something you want to say about our sponsors, real quick?
Yeah, I use Law Bandit. No, but I get my grades back after the first semester, and I was pleasantly surprised. I think I was like a 387, and that's pretty good in law school. I mean, it depends on your school, but 387 is generally pretty good. And I mean, the way that I did that, literally, I did a few things. I read everything. which I think is important as a 1L. I took really good notes with Law Bandit. Like, no, I'm not like trying to push it or anything, but I took really good notes on Law Bandit and I used it to study and I practiced issue spotters, which I also use Law Bandit for. And I think that was really the key. I just put in the work and I used the right tools. And so I got my GPA back and I was like, wow, like I looked on Reddit and I was like, what GPAs do you need to transfer? And so, it said like, okay, 3.8 and above, you can transfer to T14 schools. So I was like, wow. So I started looking into transferring and then I realized that I needed my scores for the spring to also be 3.8 or higher to have a chance. And then I got scared. I was like, oh wow, like did I maybe get lucky? Law school grading is
Mm-hmm.
very, very arbitrary. Like you really don't know how you're gonna do until after you get your grades back.
Mm-hmm.
So I doubled down in the spring. I built more features on Law Bandit, but then I really read everything. I went to office hours. I was really on it. I would like listen to like Audible about whatever subject I was studying. And the issue spotter practice is pretty big. I would practice issue spotters like when we're close to finals, like almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I saw that U Chicago had early decision, which early decision means that they accept you based on just your fall grades. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna put all my marbles in there because I'm gonna do worse in the spring. And so I did. So I applied their early decision because my reasoning was like, okay, U Chicago is the number third ranked school. They have a very good like economics background, like business type law that they
Mm-hmm.
teach. And the other two schools, Yale is number one, and that's more for like if you're interested in like common law and going being like a Supreme Court justice. And Stanford, which I was very interested in as well. It's just far. It's in the West Coast. Like I didn't really know if I wanted to go there. So I was like, okay, U Chicago is my number one school, and they have early decision. Let me just go all in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I applied there, and I applied to Georgetown, just like kind of because of safety. Um, and I got into both.
Damn, drop a bomb for my boy right now. Wait, no, no, don't skip past this. You got into U Chicago and Georgetown.
Yes,
That guy
I
has
only applied
serious
there. I
sauce.
only applied there. Let me finish the story. So I was like, okay, now I'm in. Like I could bomb these finals, and unless I don't like completely bomb it, I'll be fine. And I actually ended up doing better in the spring than I did in the fall. So I'm pretty confident now that everything in hindsight that I could have probably gotten anywhere that I applied into. But early decision at U Chicago is binding. So once I was accepted, I had to go, which I'm completely fine with. Like I think it was the best decision for me
Mm-hmm.
overall, which is why I did early decision. But yeah, it was a stressful time because I was interviewing for my 1L summer, I was
Mm-hmm.
interviewing for my 2L summer, I was studying for finals, and I was interviewing for U Chicago and like doing all the application stuff for transfer. I've had like a lot of crams in my life, but that was
Mm-hmm.
one of the top ones. Like it was pretty crazy.
Okay, so the world's wondering, how did you finish out your first year? Right? So we know your. So what was your GPA? What was your rank? And what were you involved with? Three questions: GPA, rank, and what were you involved in your first year?
Yeah, I had a little bit over a 3.9, like 3.906 or something, which was sixth in my class, and
And how many students were in your class?
305.
So you were number
Yeah,
6 out of 305. A little
yeah,
bit important. I got it.
yeah.
And then what were you involved in your first year of law
Um,
school?
I spent a lot of time studying, so I was in the study club. But the really only groups that I was involved in, it was really just one, which is like the real estate, like the real property, probate, trust. Just that was just like what I was interested in when I first started law school.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to get involved as a 1L, so that's really the only thing I was involved in. Aside from like I was building Law Bandit as well, so like I didn't really have too much time for other clubs or societies. But I am so now. I mean, this year as a 2L, it's much different. I
Mm-hmm.
think I signed up for like every club here that I was interested in, like five or six of them. I'm not sure how much I'll participate in each one, but I mean, I'm in law review, which that's another episode. And then there's like a business group, there's like a tech group. So I mean, I'll be more involved, but we haven't really started yet. We just started yesterday, which is pretty late.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a T14 school. They're like, you know what? we're gonna bombard him anyway. Let's give him a later start, and we'll take it from there. But this is interesting, right? So to our listeners, right? There's two train of thoughts, and we could delve deeper, and as the questions come in we could really tackle them, right? So for Don, he put it all in on school, right? He limited his extracurriculars, right? Getting involved, going out, doing all that stuff, and he locked in, right? That's the term everybody's saying. He locked in first semester and second semester. And one thing I tend to see is someone to do really well first semester, and they'll take their foot off the gas a little bit, and that's not what Adan did. You know, first semester he was at a 3.8. Second semester he's like, no, I'm keeping pressure. I'm applying pressure, and he closed that at a 3.9.
I did
And
see.
he,
I saw a lot of my classmates like lower their scores
Mhm.
because well the thing is like with law school you can basically get your 1L and your 2L offers based on just your fall grades.
Mhm.
So once they had both of their summers ready, they're like, all right, well I can just coast. And so they did a little bit, and I think that's fine. They started doing other stuff that they were interested in.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, most people go to law school to find a good job, which is totally fine. So once the mission accomplished, it's like, all right, like maybe let me enjoy my life a little bit more. I mean, to each
but
their own.
but but you had that different mentality. I believe Kobe said it. Job finished, job's not done.
I was not done. I smelled blood in the water. I remember like when we started the spring semester, I told my fiance, I was like, hey, like get ready because that's how I was in baseball. Like if I saw that I had an opportunity to like be good, I would take it and double down on it. I was like, baby, like I can transfer to like one of these schools. Like where I come from. My family, like we literally
Yeah.
slept five to a room when we first moved here. I was like, if I can do this, like I'm gonna try to do everything that I can, and I did,
Yeah.
and it worked out.
And that's a testament too. I mean, and just to remind our listeners, you know, Adon has shared and opened up. You know, he comes from having 3.2 GPA undergrad. He did average on the LSAT in the 160s. It's normally like 155, 162, 3. So he did average, and he said, you know what? I'm gonna apply the same method I used when I was successful playing baseball into my studies. And that's it. I'm just going to lock in. I'm just going to study, limit distractions, also utilize all tools available to me. You know, like, and we could talk about those tools in later podcasts. You know, you're talking about like Quimby, note taking apps,
Mm.
and Westlaw, all these Bloomberg, all these tools. And he's like, you know what? Not only am I going to lock in and study, but I think there can be a better way for law students like myself not only to take notes, find issue spotters, also like develop and utilize AI. And he creates an app. He creates Law Bandit on top of all of this. I don't think people are realizing. So he's studying, he's locked in, and he's like, you know what I need? A better note taking app, and an app that's going to make me more successful in law school. That doesn't exist? Okay, perfect. I will create it on the weekends, and I'm gonna use it, and I'm gonna be the first test dummy. And now here we are, fast forward months forward. Not only did he graduate number 6 in his class at a 3.9 GPA out of 4, he created an app that he has on the platform for free. I mean, I would pay for this if I was in law school for free, and he's constantly utilizing it, and now he's at a top 14 law school. I mean, if you guys are not understanding why Law Bandit is sponsoring this podcast, I mean, I don't know what else to say. You know, like, Adon, I'll be honest with you. Every time I hear your story and every time we talk, I'm like, man, I wish I could go back to law school. And it is the craziest thing to say. It's like Stockholm syndrome, right? Because that's what law school is.
Yeah,
You're kidnapped.
no kidding.
It could be dangerous, right? It could be a very uncomfortable situation, but you kind of like it. And I'm just like, you know what? Should I go back to law school to see if I could redo this again? And I thought I did well, you know, graduating with a 3.7. And I'm like, damn, I could have done better, you know, like, where was that note taking app? But everyone, guys, like, honestly, if you're considering transferring, if you have more questions with transferring, just reach out, keep emailing us, and keep asking, and we'll answer them. And in this podcast, we learned a lot. You know, we learned why Adon transferred, his background, and what the reason was for not only just transferring but just relocating him and his fiance. There, you're in Chicago now, right?
Chicago. Yeah, it's starting to get
Chicago.
cold. It's starting to get cold. I see the leaves changing here from my
Yeah.
apartment.
You know, like he completely uprooted his life and he's starting his, his second year in law school. And on top of that, he got involved. He got involved with one of the most demanding organizations in law school, which is a law review. There's law review, there's moot court, and there's trial team. These are the top three things you can do in law school that will almost guarantee you have no personal life. And Adon has taken that again. I mean, take it from me. I did moot court and trial team. I worked on a calendar. If you weren't on the calendar, I'm sorry, baby girl. I'm not seeing you. You know, we're not hanging out. So, Adon, please, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with? I mean, this episode is called First Day Out. You know, like you were able to capsulate what 1L looked like, and through the transfer process, now you're one of, 10
10
transfer
or
students.
11. There's 11 on the
Yeah.
list, but I've only met 10. So, well, maybe I'm the. No, I've only met
That-
9. I've met 9.
okay, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
I've
wait
met
a minute.
9.
You know, we go to law school, not
Yeah, yeah,
CPA
not the
school,
best of
but
numbers. No, I've only met 9. Maybe one of them didn't show up, or I don't know. But yeah, 1 to 10, 11.
so, Adan, what else do you want to leave our listeners with? You know, you're transferred, you're starting your 2L year, you've shared that there's more autonomy. Like, what else should they know if they're considering transferring or if they just want to, some tips as a 2L, like what should they know?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a 1L and you're like you maybe didn't get into the school that you wanted to, it's definitely very possible to transfer. You just have to grind. Like you have to really work hard, and at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, and and ask yourself, like, did I do everything that I could to reach this goal? And if not, then you can't really be mad if you don't get the results that you want. And you'll never regret like working hard, even if you're not able to transfer.
Yeah.
I would say have an actual reason, other than just like prestige. Like mine was like more personal. I have like different goals that I have in life, and this was this move was something that got me closer to what I wanted to do. So
Hmm.
if you can check that box off, then it's pretty good. And also, I mean, a lot of schools are really good, even like when they're not high in the rankings. Like Miami. Miami is a really good school. I mean, I would have had no issue going back there if I hadn't gotten into here. But yeah, I mean, I'm an open book. If any 1Ls or 2Ls, anybody wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn, my name is Adan Ordonez. Yeah, just connect with me, and I mean, I'm an open book. Just shoot me a message. Don't be shy.
All right. Well, as always, this podcast is called the Bar None Podcast, sponsored by Law Bandit. You gleaned a little bit of what Law Bandit is and who the creator is. Spoiler alert, it's Adon. And we love to have you. We love your questions. And as the weeks go through and the professors, their schedules lighten up, we're going to have more professors, more practitioners, and individuals in the podcast. Because our goal for you is if we leave you with a little bit of knowledge each episode, we've done our job. This is completely free. We do this because we wish we had this resource, well, definitely me when I was in law school. So, as always, follow us on all our social medias on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. That's Law Bandit. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out again on LinkedIn or Instagram. And we'll see you at the next one.
That's factual. Thanks so much, Ted. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
Alrighty. Bye.